Hello, everybody. Happy Transcendental Tuesday. We're live here in the group. If you're watching later, be sure to comment below. Let us know that you're watching later. If you're watching now, comment below too. But welcome to the Q&A session. And we hope to do more of these Q&As because I know a lot of you do have questions, and I do my best, or we do our best, to share what we know and post things that are helpful to you. Hi, Cindy and Heather. Hey, hi to everybody who registered with StreamYard. And don't worry if you didn't register with StreamYard, we'll still acknowledge, well, we can't acknowledge your name because we can't see your name in the feed, but it's okay. So we're going to really jump in here, get started and get in here because there's a lot of questions and I don't know if I can get to all of them. Hi, Marie. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can get to all of them. We're going to do our best to get there. So let me pull up my questions. I actually have typed them into StreamYard so that we can all look at the questions rather than just hearing me say the question. Okay, so we're going in order to what was submitted in the group. So this was the first one. And the question is it harder to connect with a loved one if a longer period of time has passed? This is a little tough one because I've had experience with one of my friends whose partner passed, decades ago. I mean, he passed when their child was, I want to say 7 or 5 or little. She's now a full-grown adult with kids of her own, so it's been quite a while. But she, in her case, she was connecting with him in some way all this time. Not the way that I've connected with Alan now, but she was doing her best to stay in touch, let's say. Okay, so when she learned Loving Heart Connections from me, it just went deeper and she could now feel him more. So Alan's saying to me that it is possible, but that probably the person would need something like Loving Heart Connections. Like he's showing me like it's kind of like the road has been abandoned or something. As he's showing me this image, like the road is there, but it's been abandoned and it looks all just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's not blocked or anything. It's just that there's not been any energy going through both sides, right? And so with my friend, she had been attempting to connect. And although she wasn't hearing him or seeing him, she's always felt him energetically and knew that was him. She stayed in touch with him because they had a child together. So she was trying to always get guidance from him and not succeeding necessarily all the time, but she felt his energy. Now what's happened is that his energy is stronger and she's beginning to get more, I'd say more communication other ways. But in her case, there was already the attempt. So Alan's saying that if the person hasn't attempted to stay in touch, then they have to rebuild that. But the connection's always there. So it's always possible. It's just going to take some work, if that makes sense to you folks. Like you have to, like he talks about it, like we're laying down the railroad tracks between us and them. And the tracks have to be laid in a certain way and be solid. And we have to make the journey. We have to reach out. We have to listen. We have to, really intend it, right? Really put our energy behind it for that to strengthen. So it is possible. He's saying, regardless how long it's been, it's possible. It's probably going to be work on both sides, because I don't know if you remember me saying, though, that they have to learn how to do this too. It's not like they're over there floating on a cloud and everything is easy peasy for them. They have to be putting energy and development into this too. That's what a lot of our loved ones are doing. And even with those of us like myself who've actually been actively intending this and reaching out or even practicing, on the other side, they still have to do their part. It still can take time. So I'm just saying that this is a two-way street. Yeah, I know you've heard me say that before, and that's true. So it really depends. It's hard to say how strong their loved one is on the other side in doing this. There's nobody to really gauge. Could be that they come through really quickly and easily. Hard to say. So the person in a body, though, has some work to do in terms of their belief system. Do they really want this? How open are they to exploring it? Are they able to trust their experience, have faith in it, and all that? As you folks know who are trying to do this, it takes a lot. A lot of you still are wonder, is that really them? Did I really hear that? Was that really you? And every time we do that, we pinch off the connection. Okay, Alan's showing me, it's like if you think of it like building that road, it's like you kind of take one part of the road apart. You kind of dismantle it a little bit every time you doubt it. So we're not doing ourselves any favors when we question. That is going to just stop you dead in your tracks. So the people who succeed in this, he's saying, are the ones who go all in and they just trust experience. Not that they don't have questions, but they just trust and believe, because your belief is what's going to create this. Belief is how you create every single thing in your life. If you don't believe in this, then he's saying you should just forget it. Really, that has to come first. Your belief needs to be rock solid, and we understand you're not there yet. But until you're there, it's gonna be sporadic. It's gonna be up and down, and it still will be a little bit up and down. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be more fluctuation and more confusion. Yep. Say okay. What Heather just said. Yes, because I've said this. Go big or go home. Really, it's that. Go all in or pack it up. I'm not trying to be cruel here, but there's no in between if you really want this connection. And I understand you have questions. We have a whole bunch of questions about that, well, I don't understand. Why is it? I get it. I get it. But first, you have to believe. And every time you question and doubt and go, yeah, but what about that? And I don't understand. He's showing me you're taking things apart that you've been trying to build up. So it does take both of us. And our part really is the doubt. They completely believe, of course, because they know the reality. So they're not doubting. And they get exasperated when they see us take 3 steps forward and then 3 steps back. Like I'll go back to where we started because we start doubting again. But they're patient and they love us and they know it's hard, to be in a body. But that's just how it is. Your beliefs create every bit of your experience, your unconscious beliefs, which you're not aware of, and then your conscious beliefs. You know what you believe by what's showing up in your life. That's the evidence of what's showing up. So if you feel like you're making progress, even if it's just minuscule, you know your belief is on track. If you feel like you're stalled out, your belief needs to be reexamined. If you feel like you're just not getting anywhere, same thing. What do I believe? Do I really have faith in this? Do I have fears about this? What's going on with me? Right? That's what you have to ask. So let's move on to the next question. Try to get through as much as we can. Why can't we remember past lives? Why can't we know some of the things we're curious about? I thought about that, and then Alan was talking to me about it too. And what he said and what I realized was that I want you to really put things into perspective here, historically. Do you think that we are and when I talk about we, I mean humanity, people in general, the mass consciousness, are more open to the idea of the afterlife today? Do you think that we are more curious about it, at least? Are more people exploring it? I mean, I would say yes. I think that, okay, now he's telling me spirit actually created the internet. I've heard this before by other spiritual teachers that believe that the internet was created. Well, he's saying everything was created by the other side, which is true. Everything's created by the other side for our benefit because we're not that smart. So spirit had to download us with creating the internet, creating electricity, all these things, right? So they created the internet. They knew that humanity would, it was all about connection because the internet has created communities for good or ill communities. And so because of that, there's more awareness of these subjects. Now there's a lot of disinformation, to be sure, but there's a lot more knowledge. Again, some of it is bogus knowledge, but still people are talking, sharing like we are now. Some of you probably wouldn't even realize that you could have this interdimensional relationship if you hadn't heard about other people like myself talking about it and saying, oh really, is that possible, and reading their experiences and saying, wow, that's a little bit's happened to me, or I would like that to happen to me. So we're sharing all this. So he's saying there's been huge progress. And I, don't get me wrong, but when I read some of these questions, like the other side, they're just going, Jesus, you know how hard it took us to get to this place? To get you guys to this place? Were you at least open-minded enough to say, oh, the soul doesn't die? The reason you don't remember your past lives, because if you remembered all of them, you'd basically probably get locked up in an institution because you wouldn't know which life you were in right now. If you had full recall of it, it would be like all these overlapping lives are interwoven in the now, and you'd be completely confused. Why do you think some people do go a little bit nuts? A lot of the people that are just, kind of lost in their own world are people who are just opened up psychically to the extent that they're not grounded. They're seeing everything. So what they're seeing is real. It's not like they're deluded, but can you imagine if you saw all those realities and you didn't know which one you're interacting with at one time? You would be locked up. Okay, so he's saying to me, you take from your past lives what you learned, and that's with you. It stays with you in this life and all the others. So in a sense, it's not even that necessary to go explore them. I actually, at one time, I was practicing past life regression. And I'll be really honest with you, completely honest with you. I found it kind of boring because when it comes down to it, most people's lifetimes were usually rather mundane and not necessarily remarkable. And the only thing that I was really interested in is what happens in between lives, like what goes on when we cross over and we're there and we're connecting with our soulmate family, our guides and angels. I think that's more fascinating than who was I in another life, blah 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 blah. Right? So if you don't get too hung up on the past life thing, when we launch our program, our paid program, which by the way, it's not going to be till January now because I have to get a kind of a web person in to move content. We have a bigger plan. You guys will love it when we launch in January. But we're not doing that till January. I don't want to get off track with the question, but I just want to add here because we want to explore life between lives in our program. I have the intention because I used to do past life regression, and I know that they do life between life regression. And although I'm not trained in that, Alan keeps saying, Pam, you hypnotize people all the time. And I used to hypnotize people in past life regression. So we'll figure that out, and we will do that as part of our program, among other things. So I'm just saying the only reason to me to explore that is to say, how can I connect to the other side, to my loved one, in the case for all of us, right? Because if you can do that in a life between life experience, and we can do this as a group, by the way, which will be make it more powerful. This is why we're doing a group program, because there, well, it's come through to many spiritual teachers that the time we're living in, we're supposed to come together in groups. So I have to put aside one-to-one work, at least do much, much less of it, because I was shown 35 years ago, really, I was shown that I was to work with large groups of people. I mean, large groups of people, that I had, my team had the ability to leverage the group energy for the good of more people. So I love working one-to-one, but I won't be able to do that much longer. So anyway, we're going to do our own version of Life Between Lives, because Spirit's going to guide it. Alan's going to guide it. So you can't know everything, because if you did, then you wouldn't be here having this experience that you yourself chose to have. Not you, now you didn't plan everything out to detail, but you planned what challenges you'd have. You planned, what who the parents your parents would be. None of it was necessarily guaranteed it was going to turn out the way you hoped it would, but that's called that's just called, cause and effect. It's just there has to be a certain kind of randomness, a little bit in it, but you had a plan coming in. And we all, when we incarnate, we all kind of go through a sort of veil of forgetting. And one of my medium friends, her guides showed her what that was. I think it was her angel showed it what it was. They showed her when she, kind of symbolically, like she was coming into the earth plane to incarnate. Now she passed through this field of energy where they said, see, and here is where you forgot everything. And she said, well, I want to go back. I want to remember it. And they said, okay, well, but you only can remember some of it, because there's a reason you go through that. Because you come in here to consciously, on purpose, wake up. And because that's the challenge. Can I consciously wake up to the full awareness that I'm a soul in a body and live as that soul? Because what's the challenge if I'm born here and I know everything about myself? I know all my past lives. I know I'm God. I might as well stay on the other side. Really, that's what Alan's like, laughing. He goes, what's the point of coming here if you're just being yourself as you are on the other side? You come here to have the challenging experience that you're having. Now, you might come and then realize, wow, I think I bit off more than I can chew. But that's a whole other story. You decided, I want to have this adventure and I want to be challenged. And you knew that you were safe because you couldn't be destroyed. So when you're up there, you go, I can do it because I know that there's no harm going to happen to me, really. Any suffering in the grand scheme of eternity would be, a minute in all of my life. So why would I care? And as soon as I cross over and come home, it's all made good. I'll be healed. And so there's nothing that you were really risking when you made that decision on the other side. So that's kind of why you can't know all these things, but you can discover it because there's more information now. Think of all the people sharing their near-death experiences. That wasn't happening before because people now are being saved on the, in the operating room. They're coming back from these almost dying. And because of that, more people touch heaven, they have the experience, come back, and they realize, oh my goodness, I'm not, life isn't what I thought it was. So that is happening. So for any of us to think like, why is everything so hidden and secret? They're over there, they're just laughing at us, going, you guys are kidding. Have you read all the books? Have you looked at all of the websites? Have you seen all the courses? They're just laughing, going, are you guys crazy? Are we in the same reality? They said, but the problem is there's too much information, and a good half of it is probably bogus because it's filtered through a human. Now, that's a different problem that you guys are not talking about. Like, nobody's saying, why is there so much information? Instead, you're saying, why is there so, why don't I know? Or why isn't there information? There's too much information. And this is why Spirit wants us to go direct. They would like all of us to be channeling, writing our own messages from the other side, whether it's from our loved ones, our guides, or angels, or all of them, because we can do it. You can do it. Okay, and we're planning to do that in our program. We're going to encourage people and support them to write their own stories, even write their own story of their own love story with their partner on the other side, because that's what we've done. So we're going to kind of encourage people to do that, give them a space to share their writing as it happens, because it's a journey. It's not something you write in even like a week or even a year, maybe. I mean, it's something that takes time. Anyway, we're getting off track, Alan's saying. So that's why you can't know everything. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So let me pull up the next question. I think this is kind of the same thing. Why must we forget we're souls experiencing life? Because you want that challenge. Again, if you knew everything, then you would have just stayed. He said you would stayed home, stayed home on the other side. You came here to have a very different experience of duality. God was just experiencing oneness. Let's say God, we're just saying God because it's easier to talk about God. God, whether it's he, she, it's just consciousness. So God wanted to experience herself and said, well, then I'm going to have to create some other being, right? This is the duality, because God is everything. If you're everything in your oneness, there's no other being, there's no other person, there's only you, there's only the oneness. So God decided, well, create other souls, the illusion that we're all separate. So here in the earth plane is where we experience that, because you don't really experience that on the other side. I mean, you do and you don't. You're your soul on the other side, but you also know that you're one. So you can tap into just being one, like God is one. And you can also just be the soul, the unique, separate soul that you are. But you know all that. Here you don't know that. And you're here to discover that. And I've said this before, and Alan lets me say this again, that we don't understand the amazing opportunity we have that they do not have over there, because they don't have, you're not in a 3D physical body. Okay, they could create a body over there, and they do. I'm not saying that. He says, but it's different. It's really different. When they eat food on the other side, because they could eat anything, could have everything, he says it's not the same. It's not the same. And when they come here in a body, and whether they're eating food or drinking wine or whatever it is, right? It's completely, he says, it's hard to describe. It's such a rich experience being in a 3D body that they don't get to have over there, that a lot of souls want to have that experience, as well as other experiences in other planets, other realities. But the earth plane is a favorite place for many souls to come and grow and learn. And the experiences, he says, is unlike any other. So, we don't understand that we have been given this gift of being in a physical body, having all our physical senses, and also the ability to develop our other psychic senses, which means that we could also we could be awakened as a soul and basically have it all in a way that they can't even have it all, because they'd have to be here in a body to experience what we experience. Now, your loved one can and does experience this reality through you. Okay, so that's the closest they get to interacting with this world, yet still being over there. And so they love that. It's very, he says, fulfilling and rich and deep to them. Plus, of course, they get to be with us. So I really pray that you folks get what a privilege it is to be in the body. And I know it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I know it's really hard, especially when dealing with grief. And the 3D world is so insane right now. But You came here because you couldn't wait to be here, as hard as that might seem to believe. You might be kicking yourself going, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? Okay, but that's the truth of it. All right, let me see, what is the next question? Why is it so hard to communicate with loved ones on the other side? Actually, I think it's the answer to that is it's actually not. I think the problem is it's easier to connect with them than you realize, and that's why you make it hard. I really do. Because spirit has always been communicating with us from the beginning of time, and they've only gotten louder. The problem is most people have become too distracted. And we're not just talking about people walking around looking at their phone all the time, and I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of that too. And Alan will go, can you put your phone down? Can you put your phone down? So think about that. Think about that. Okay, that he says distraction and being too caught up in this 3D world because you're now plugged into it 24/7. That is the problem. That is the problem. If you didn't have that, and we've suggested before to you folks to have at least a day or hopefully even a weekend where you unplug from all electronics, all social media, all news, like shut it all down and just commune with your loved one. Said if you did that on a regular basis, you would see your communication with your loved one skyrocket. And he's showing me that in capital letters. But he said few of you are going to do that. And they know that. No matter how much you miss your loved one, few of you are going to do that on a regular basis. Once is great. Once is great. Once a week doing that would be better. Okay? And I mean shutting down everything. No TV, nothing that is plugged into a wall, nothing that has rechargeable battery, like nothing electronic. That you just be. Ideally, that you are in nature or at least relax somewhere where you can gaze out at nature if the weather's bad, but where you're just being still. I don't mean you have to meditate. I don't mean you have to, not talk to anybody. I just mean that you're being still, you're being quiet, and you're listening, and you're just tuning in. And now he's showing me, and you're writing, like lots of writing, like journaling, writing what they're saying to you until your hand gets tired. Okay. If you haven't tried that yet, the other side is telling me to say to you, stop complaining. And they're saying that with love, okay, with love for you, not anything else. They're just, he's saying, remember, the other side has been reaching out to humanity from the beginning. Yeah, we have done that too, but really it's them that have been trying to knock down the wall between us. And we're the ones that kind of just shrug our shoulders and think like, but get on with it and don't open up to it, right? We just think this is real, and they know it's hard because this world kind of hypnotizes us. But someone asked, you mentioned Earth plane, what other ones are there? There are many planes of realities, many dimensions. We can't even go into that here. And I suggest you don't go down that rabbit hole. That's just a huge distraction. A lot of other concepts that other groups might talk about, same thing. A lot of other, he's calling it mind candy. Like, don't let that distract you. If you want communication with your loved one on the other side, get laser focused on that. Stop trying to understand everything. Just focus on feeling their love and tuning in, trusting what you're experiencing, writing it down as much as possible. So I'm going to share what Cindy wrote. She started writing last week. It's been an amazing spirit. Yes. I cannot emphasize writing their messages enough. That can totally amplify your communication. To me, that is the stepping stone to a fuller telepathic communication. And yet, I would also say that I would keep up with the writing, because the writing grounds their energy into this world and gives you a record of what they're saying to you. that you can go back and read when you're feeling down. How many times has Alan in the past, as I was writing the book, and I was going through a lot emotionally, and you'll see when you read their book, I was at a breaking point several times, and he'd say, "Could you go back and read what I told you? Could you go back and read?" And I'd read it, and I'd say, "Oh yeah, okay, I feel your love. I know what you're saying." And if didn't have that to go back to, I would have felt worse for far longer. So it does make a huge difference. Huge difference. They love it when we pay attention, when we listen to them, and even more so when we write down what they're saying. And Marisa, she has a half-written journal, half-word doc for her. Okay, great. Whatever it is, whether it's on Google Docs, whether there are online diaries, many of them are free that you could just go in there and write. So write their words of love and support and guidance for you, and know that that'll just get stronger. Keep a record of this. So those some of you with children, I've told you, you could keep a diary of these communications with your children's father and mother, so that you have this legacy to leave your child when they're old enough to read it and understand. This can change their life. This is evidence of their parents' love for them, and your story of what you went through to connect and stay connected and build the relationship. Do you know how sacred and beautiful that is? What a gift that is? How life-changing that will be for your children as they get older? Because if they're younger or even teenagers, they're not ready. Okay, but when they're older, trust me, they'll be more than appreciated. I mean, that they will, Alan's saying, they will treasure that. So write this for yourself and write this for your family, especially if you have children that you want to pass this on to. What greater gift can a parent give their child than the gift of knowing that they are immortal and that no one dies? And you're preparing them for the day that you will leave this world, and so that they don't have to go through the grief that you went through. They'll still grieve, don't get me wrong, but it won't be to the depth that you've had to experience, because they'll know that they can talk to you. They'll probably talk to you right away when they cross over. So is there anything better a parent could leave their child? Yeah, please look at that way, and let's get on to the other question. Okay, somebody wrote, what can I do to make it easier for him to manifest? Is there a way to build up the energy together, such as sitting in the power? I think this is Kathleen. Okay, first I want to talk about, what do you mean manifest? Are you talking about manifest in 3D? That they can do. It takes a lot of energy, and it doesn't last very long. And some mediums will tell you, why go through this? Like, why? Because it is a lot for them. And it's mostly them. They have to do this. Okay, that's how it's explained to me. So it's not so much on our part, okay, to make that happen. So that is hard. I would say you're better off trying to develop your clairvoyance to see your loved one that way, which is clear, which would be translucent or see-through. Okay. Oh, also, Alan's saying to me to remind you that we're going to encourage people in our program, because we're going to go into this more in the program, to learn lucid dreaming. And we also believe that if we all join together to learn lucid dreaming as a group, that it's going to be a lot easier for everyone to make that contact. And it's just, everything is stronger, easier in a group. So we're going to focus on that too in our program. But you can do this on your own. It's just that the key is waking up in your dream. But the dream world, you've heard me say this, I'm pretty sure you've heard me say this, that the dream world is real, is realer than this world. Because if this is the unreal world and the other side is the real world, then what does that make the dream world? It's an in-between place. It's just that nobody can prove that it's in between heaven and earth. Nobody can prove that. But we know the astral plane is. kind of in between also, right? So similar, different but similar. So you can experience them in a dream. Someone in the group, she knows who she is. She reached out to me by email and asked me if I had lucid dreams with Alan, because she has lucid dreams of her husband several times a week, and it's healed her grief, and it's very fulfilling for her because she experiences him, feels him, is held by him, all that. It says it's as real, if not even more real than this world. So I'd say you're better off putting your energy behind that than trying to focus on having a manifest for maybe, I don't know, 5 seconds in this world, like, and that's it, because that has happened for people, and it usually happens once and that's it. Now, that said, I'm not saying that it might not be possible in time, because more things are becoming possible. That's what Alan's saying. But I can't promise you that. And I wouldn't want to lead anybody astray saying, well, why don't you focus on helping them manifest? And then being disappointed when you have better odds at learning lucid dreaming. There's so many books on lucid dreaming. And it's really about reading the ones and finding techniques that maybe work for you specifically. Okay, but yeah, sitting in the power is great to really sitting in the power is about connecting with your soul. You're not sitting in the power to connect with your loved one. You're sitting in the power to build up your energy, to build up the power. And once you do that, whether you sit in the power for 10 minutes or an hour, then you can move on to do some, I would suggest doing a meditation like the Synctuition meditation, if you want to use that to connect with your loved one, or the Loving Heart Connection session that I teach, where you practice connecting and communicating with your loved one, something like that. And it's better you're using that energy to take into that experience with them. Okay, that's how you would use it. And also recently, I think I wrote about this, I'm not sure. Alan was telling me, do people understand that the more time they would spend, I'm going to use Loving Heart Connections as an example. So the more times you spend in that Loving Heart Connection state, which is a very deep state of relaxation, my experience, because I've been a trance channel, is it's very similar to a trance state. It is a trance state for all intents and purposes. Although I don't think Jane would say that. I know it is because I've done both. So when you're in that trance state, you're going to grow spiritually, and your connection to your loved one is going to deepen too. So I know that trance states can be transformative for us, just us, not even talking about connecting with our loved one, just for us, because I was doing that for 5 months, as I've said before to all of you. And I didn't know that my doing that would open me up psychically and spiritually, and basically lead to a sort of near-death experience without dying. But that's what it did. So if you were to do that, spend 45 minutes to an hour in one of those states, like a trance state, like you could do back-to-back Synctuition meditations, perhaps, if you haven't learned Loving Heart Connections from me or another facilitator. But if you have done Loving Heart Connections, then be in that state, because there are people who are using that like for long periods of time and having more connection. So if you've learned Loving Heart Connections and you haven't applied it, you kind of need to go back and start over if you really want to make contact, because you already have it. You already have the ability, and Spirit is driving that modality. Spirit created that modality. And I'm only kind of really on here reminding you folks of that who've already learned it. And a few of you have contacted me and want sessions, and I've booked you. I'm trying to fit everybody in before I shut the doors, because I won't be able to do one-on-ones very soon. I think I only have 3 appointments left for that, or 2 left. I don't know. But those modalities, if you were to spend time in those states, even just sitting in that energy, right? Sitting in that state, the other side is engaged with you. and something is going to happen. It's just about staying the course and not giving up. Okay, we're just too impatient in our society, in our world, and that's the problem. You've got to put some time into this. I can't say how much time it would be. For me, it was 5 months of being in a trance state, but that was, gosh, that was 35 years ago. I doubt that anybody needs to do that, but some people might need to do it for that long or maybe longer. I don't know. All I know is what I went through, and that I'm seeing people who put more time into going into these altered states having more results. Okay. It's not about, I'm hearing Ellen saying, it's not about just taking psychic development classes, although that can help. Don't get me wrong. But you've got to change your belief system, because otherwise you'll just be a very psychic person that has some screwy beliefs that are leading you to not manifest what you want. Trust me, if being completely psychic was the be all and end all of what you experience on this planet, the psychics would be the happiest, most successful people in the world. And I can promise you that they're not. I promise you they're not. I promise you they have money issues and they have health issues and all kinds of issues. Okay. They're as messed up as everybody else. And they have this psychic ability that actually can make things worse. So he was showing me it's like teaching a child how to drive and setting them loose. He says some of them don't know what they're doing. So it's not like that is the answer by itself. It just isn't. It can actually make a person's life more challenging, because now they have this psychic ability that they're going to manage, and they haven't cleaned up their vibration. They haven't healed themselves of their wounds and trauma, and now they've got this power, right? So it's showing me a little kid with a flamethrower. So it's not pretty. Not that I'm not trying to scare you, but that's just the reality. I know, Marie, this is your question, right? Regarding moving from 4D to 5D, as I understand it, ascension, the shift is get to 4D. Well, let's talk about what those terms are anyway. So people talk about dimensions and all that, but okay, so my understanding is more about that we're talking about densities. But I guess you could say dimensions, but I think the accurate term is density. I'm going more by an agreement with and more by with Bentino Mazzaro, how he explains it. He explains it really well about the densities. First density, second, third, and then fourth. We're moving into fourth density. Okay. We're moving into fourth density. So first density was just awareness. Okay. Think of the planet and its evolution. So first there's, let's just say there's just rocks. There's just rocks and stone, right? And that's it. Just rocks. No plants yet. Just rocks. Rocks don't move, do they? They don't recreate, do they? They're just rocks and mountains, maybe, whatever. So there's rocks and stones. And that's awareness. So consciousness is aware. Then you add second density, which is movement. This is when you do have plants that reproduce, that actually move, like they move in the wind, don't they? And they bear fruit, or they get, the flowers get pollinated and all that stuff. So after that, and there's other plant life and things like that. But after that, there is that second density. Third density is self-awareness. And this is where we have humans that are now self-aware. I'm aware of myself. Alan's saying even plants are self-aware. Their consciousness. That's where we're at now. Humanity is self-aware. And the challenge is now we're supposed to move to unconditional love, which means that we're supposed to have that vibration, right? We're supposed to love ourselves unconditionally, love others unconditionally. And you look around you at the world and you think, wait a minute, it doesn't look like many people are loving anybody unconditionally. If anything, they all look like they're at each other's throats, because they're not doing the work. They're not shifting into fourth dimension, right? Of loving themselves and others. So people are either getting more hardcore about their their ego and that they're right and everybody else is wrong, and and just yeah, digging their heels in and not coming from love. Or they are going through a transformation and saying, yeah, it's about love, it's about love, and they're leaving everything behind that doesn't resonate with love. They're realizing that's the truth. So what you're seeing is there's a polarization that's occurred. Isn't it apparent to you that there is definitely a split down the middle? You're either standing for love and truth, right? Or you're standing for everything that isn't that. That you're standing for your selfishness, standing for your own point of view. You are at war with everybody because you believe your way is the right way and they're wrong. So this was predicted and is happening. I knew of this like 30 years ago. They were saying that we're going to come to a time where people were just in two camps. You couldn't straddle anymore. You couldn't be in both camps. You'd have to choose. And we're not talking about politics, because politics, both sides are completely screwed up and completely got their own agenda. Oh, Marie's saying, she's asking because too many talk about instant 5D. Yeah, Alan's saying, just understand, there's a lot of people out here talking about in magical thinking. Like the aliens are going to land and rescue everybody and all this. He says this is also predicted would happen, that people would just think that somehow we'd be rescued and everything would just work out magically. No, you have to do the work. You have to work on yourself. It matters. You have to clean up your own vibration. Now, the gift that all of us have who are in this group, who have partners and loved ones on the other side, who want to help us, want to love us, is that we have access to unconditional love through them. That few people in a body have access to. Do you understand that? Do you understand how rare it is to be loved by someone unconditionally? Someone in a body, there's only maybe 2% of the population, if that, can love unconditionally in the true sense of that word. Okay, there are people who love deeply. I'm not talking about that. Most love is romantic. Most love is conditional. Like they're not going to love you if you cheated on them or you hurt their feelings or whatever. And I'm not talking about if they abused you, because that no one should stand for it, because you need to love yourself equally. But because that's different. But unconditional love is very rare. Your partner on the other side is the embodiment of unconditional love. Does love you unconditionally, even if they've got issues still. That's been cleaned up. The worst of it's been cleaned up. They don't have an ego. The ego is the problem. Okay, the ego is the problem. So you have access to that. Their love can ignite your own self-love. But again, you got to believe. If you don't believe you're worthy, and some of you don't, you still question, well, maybe she doesn't love me anymore. Maybe I've disappointed her or him, or, and no, that's you judging yourself and being hard on yourself, not loving yourself. They love you completely. You're the one that needs to get your act together. You're the one then that's holding yourself back from really connecting, because you're not their equal. If you think that you're not worthy, then that's the reality you're going to create. You're not worthy. How can you have that relationship full on if you don't think you're worthy? Heck, I know I'm worthy of Alan's love, and I tease him all the time. I go, dude, you sure you deserve me? I just tease him. Okay, so we got work to do, but they're here to help us, and their love can help us. And that's why we say focus on feeling their love first. Don't go for, I want them to manifest, or I want them to hold my hand. And I know all those things are cool. But if you don't feel their love, then their love is not transforming you, and you're not clearing all the crap you need to clear. Their love can heal that. We'll start purging that. You've got some work to do. And it's not necessarily going to take forever or even be that hard. It depends how much you've got to clean up. But that's what you're here for, people. You're here to work on yourself. So the sooner you get that, that I'm here to do my own healing, and I have someone in heaven who's able to love me, able to help me, able to heal me, even if I just go all in and trust. Alan's saying, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What we're telling you here, he says, few people are saying to anybody, whether they're a medium or spiritual teacher. Very few mediums. I've been looking over some of the books by mediums I have, and very few of them are even talking about loving a partner through the veil. They just talk about they'll always be with you, they'll live in your heart, you can talk to them sometimes. None of them are saying you can stay connected, you can have a relationship, you don't need to find somebody else if you don't want to. They're not saying that. Even the mediums, he's laughing, he's saying even the a few mediums who have that connection with their loved one on the other side, not even they are fully getting it. That's the thing that cracks me up. um, they kind of moved on too. So we're charting a new course here, and what you're doing, what we're all doing, is making a huge difference. So yes, you do this for yourself. That's the first thing. This has to be for your healing, your growth, your reconnection with your loved one. Your relationship is sacred, it's holy, it's you know destined to continue if that's what you want. So you put that first. And secondarily, very importantly, you are making a difference in the world by standing for that, by letting go of your fears and just believing and going all in, and not listening to the naysayers and the people around you say just get on, marry somebody else or go date or whatever, right? That you are helping other people like yourself connect and heal and love again. You're helping others on this side of the veil and the other side of the veil. Let me see here. What other question? Am I getting close to the rest of the question? Oh, we went through that one. Hold on. Scroll down. I guess we're going to an hour. Is it possible for our partners to know the future, such as when we'll be able to join them? Alan says sometimes, but they wouldn't necessarily tell you because it wouldn't be helpful. And anyway, you can change your exit point. So it's not like there's just one date on a calendar circled that that's the day you're going to leave. So there would be no point in telling you that. I don't think that would be, he's saying that's not useful for you to know, but they would want to help you with things that you could do something about that would benefit you in your life while you're here. Okay. When our partners have their life reviews, are they made aware of all of our history as well, being that we are intertwined as soulmates? Yes, when they have their life reviews, they realize everything. They realize everything. They realize the bigger picture of why you're together. They know that anything is possible. They know that it's really comes down to us, though, right? Because they know everything is possible, but they know the only limitation is our beliefs. Really, that's all it's ever been. Our beliefs, not the other side. The other side has always wanted to come through. In our book, in the note to the reader that I wrote, I was making the point that we're not disturbing the dead by knocking on their door saying, hey, we want to talk to you. They have been knocking on our door from the beginning, saying, hey, we're trying to help you. Hey, we want you to know that we're not gone. Hey, we want to know that we can still be part of your life and existence. And certainly indigenous people especially did continue to talk to their loved ones on the other side. Some cultures even now set a place at the dining table for their ancestors, or leave food out and all that. And people, in the Western world just think that they're superstitious. But Alan's saying that's all real because they know that their ancestors are still there. So they know that anything's possible if we believe. But that's the problem. Most people don't believe. So they do know. What do I need to learn differently from what he needs to learn for communication and flow? Is the communication similar to or dissimilar to 3D conversation? Spirit communication in general, not just your loved one, but angels and guides, is very direct, concise, usually to the point, and speaks in terms of now, usually. Okay. Your loved one might be a little different, but the spirit world only gives you what you can use right now, generally speaking. And they don't communicate in flowery language like that goes on and on and on. And your loved one probably doesn't either, unless they talk like that. And even if they used to talk like that in the beginning, it's probably going to be a little more slower till things kind of build up. But it depends. Is there something that you need to learn? We need to learn. Again, it's just trust. Just going with what comes into your mind if you get a sense of them around you, and you get a message or hear a word, that you claim it, that you go, oh, I think you're saying this, or are you saying that, instead of dismissing it. So even if you're not sure what you hear, if you know you heard something, can you at least own that and say, I know I heard this, or I received this message. I'm not sure exactly, but I know what I received. I'm not sure where it came from, but I know what I received. That is at least you accepting it instead of rejecting it and saying, I don't know what that was. As soon as you say, I don't know what that was, it's like you're pushing it away. So the communication, in one sense, is similar, and yet it's not. And when it starts to really come through more, when both sides, you and them, get more in sync with each other, yeah, it can be more flowing. But don't expect that they're always talking to you necessarily the same, like the same amount, the same speed, or that kind of thing, because that can vary. And don't worry. We tend to worry when something changes and think like, how come now they're quiet? And yesterday they're really talkative. Or your ego, your insecurity, your fear that something's gone wrong, and maybe they're pulling back. Just trust that there's some reason that has to be that way, and let it go, right? Like, let it go, okay? Because we don't know. Don't assume the worst. Assume that maybe they just are reflective right now, or they just feel that we need a break. Alan, in the beginning, was telling me, like, I said to him, why can't you talk more to me? And he said, if I talked to you as much as I wanted to, you'd probably go crazy. And I'd say, no, I don't. Let me be the judge of that. And say, no, trust me, it would really not be good right now. So I didn't have any control over that. I didn't like it, but that's what he said. So I had to accept that, because he wasn't gonna, change that. So we don't know why they're doing that, but there you go. Why is their life secretive or mysterious? And I can't tell you that. Just seems there's so much effort on my side without knowing enough details and answers to my questions. You can't really know everything about the other side, because he says that it would be really hard to explain. How do you explain places that have no correlation to this world? Colors that don't exist in this world. It's just hard to imagine what that is. So a lot of it is just left. And then to explain in detail, I actually think that you can get information if you write their messages. If you have he's saying to me, the discipline and tenacity to keep communicating and refine your communication. Don't necessarily go looking for it in books, because all the books you're reading were channeled by a person in a body through their biases and their beliefs and their opinions. So none of it is 100% accurate. You want to get your own story straight from your loved one. And in the process, you're going to develop your ability to communicate with them and learn to trust what you're perceiving. That's of more value than picking up somebody's book. Go pick up the book after you've written your own book. That's what Alan told me to do. He didn't want me to go reading other people's books on their afterlife relationship. I kind of read one, well, a little bit of one until I didn't like it. Like I really didn't like it. And she was a journalist and written other books. And I thought it was too intellectual, or I don't know. I just didn't resonate with me. I wanted more of an emotional connection or something that would teach me a bit more. And it was more, he's saying it was, she's trying to make it be professional, and we're just writing our story for you guys. We're not trying to impress, like, I don't know, other people or get a book award. I don't expect our book to get a book award. People like that want a book award. I don't want that. I want our book to help people like you and me, not don't care about impressing anybody or winning stupid book awards. Just like Abraham Hicks, right? I don't think they're going to win any book awards for channeled writing. Our work is channeled. So get the story from them. This is what I mean by going direct. They can't tell you that because people in a body don't know everything. And your loved one will tell you what they're able to tell you and what you're ready for. But please don't make that be so important that you have to know everything that they're doing. You're kind of missing the point. Like, is this about being in a relationship with them, really sharing love, sharing life? Or is it about, I want to understand everything on the other side? Can you let that come later? Because again, Alan's saying some of that is mind candy. Again, like it's just like, I want to be there and see everything. You can be there and see that. He's showing me again lucid dreaming as a path to that, where they could show you that, take you there, so to speak. He's taken me there. He's taken me to the home he's building for us in heaven and what it looks like. And it makes me cry. And I spend time there. So I more care about that. I don't care about knowing what is heaven like, what are other people like. I just care about a relationship. The other stuff, I'm not that interested in, at least not right now. I want to really strengthen my connection with him. So that would be my advice. But you can't, he says you can't know all of it, because how is he putting it to me? Saying, just understand that on the other side, souls there can create whatever experience they want to create, because you're free to create the reality that you want. So there's everything. It's almost like it's like going to this huge convention that has millions of doors down this corridor, where behind each door is somebody's reality that they've created. And you're invited to join that reality if you choose, if you find it interesting. And you can go do that. So there's not like just one thing or one place. There's like everything, because you are everything. So how do they explain that to us? That there's everything one could imagine and more, because our imagination is limited. So hope that helps. I know that was from Lena. So hope that helps, Lena. If not, post another question, follow-up question. Do newer souls across the veil know that the interdimensional marriage is possible? It's new to us, so are they aware that we can do this? As we learn to connect, how do we know they want this as well? Well, we know they want this as well because actually this idea is their idea. This idea is their idea, just like everything else. They're the ones pushing this idea, putting it into our thought. Okay? It's impossible for you to think of something, conceive of something, if it was not possible for you to have it on some level of reality. That's how the universe works. That's how God is. So whatever comes to you means that is possible. Now you've got to line up your own belief around it, your own vibration around it, your own thoughts around it, all that. But that means that that's possible. So that the idea of interdimensional relationships did come from them, like everything else. Alan's laughing because remember, humans are not that bright. No, we are. But he's saying that in terms of inspired ideas, they come from the spirit world. Always have, always will, because you right now, although you're in a body having this human experience, You're still a spirit, and the greater part of you is on the other side with your loved one right now. And so you know that. You are your soul. Even if you don't know you're a soul, you're a soul. And even if you don't believe in the afterlife, when you cross over, you're going to end up there. And you know how many soul, and I've heard of this from so many people who through a medium, connecting with their parent or loved one or whoever, and saying the loved one was like shocked that the afterlife was really a thing. Well, it doesn't matter that you don't believe in the afterlife, because that is the truth. That is the reality. So they do believe in that, and they want it if we want it. If you don't want it, then you don't have to go there and have the interdimensional relationship. If you have unfinished business with each other, even if you went on to be involved with somebody else, you would probably still connect with your partner on the other side. If you both of you are not finished and you both agree that you want to continue, you probably will continue, whether you remarry or have another relationship or not. So this life you're having right now is still very brief in the grand scheme of your eternal life. Doesn't mean it's not important or valuable and should be taken seriously. It just means just see the bigger picture, that you are over there on the other side. And when you have a lucid dream and you meditate, you're reaching toward that merge that already occurred between the two of you that never is going to end. You're just experiencing it more in the 3D world by your connecting with it. So I know there are comments here, and I haven't been looking at them because I focused on the questions. So yeah. Oh, I love that, Marie. You just said the strongest communication you received was in a dream. Will you be back? The answer, yes. Yes, back. Well, I think George is here. I mean, I know he's here with you. Oh, Heather, you're so funny. Just because you can't see the moon during the daylight doesn't mean it's not there. So the moon does not exist. You can't see it. No, of course it exists. Yeah, everything exists. So thank you for your questions. I wanted to answer them all because next week I didn't want to have to follow up with the last questions because I'm going to talk about something else next week, but we'll save that as a surprise. We're going to kind of tell you a little bit. We're doing a little bit of a sneak preview of our program, kind of an offer for some of you, but we're going to save that for next time. But we're going to go now because we're over an hour and Alan's getting out the hook to take me off the stage, so to speak. Have a great week, and we'll see you later. Okay, bye-bye.